Hello, and welcome to the Retirement Point Podcast, where we celebrate seniors before and after the point of retirement. My name is Catherine Harbour, and I'll be your host today. This is Gerri Barbour, and I've heard just a little bit about you, Mrs. Barbour, that you were an educator and actually in the great state of Ohio, and I say that because that's where I was born, and I have a lot of family there. So let's start there. So tell us a little bit about where you lived in Ohio and maybe a high-level overview of your education career there.
Right. I grew up in a small town in southern Ohio. I have one sister. It was a very pleasant place to live, although it was during segregation time. The education system was wonderful. The schools were desegregated. I thought it's an interesting contrast that I couldn't eat at a restaurant or stay in the hotel, but I could drink from a public drinking fountain, and I could go to school, in my neighborhood school without any repercussions, and I got an excellent education.
So it sounds like that became a career path for you then, being in education. Did I get that right, or did I mishear that?
No, that's correct. I decided to get an education in the field of education.
Okay, well, great. So what grades did you teach?
I started in elementary school. I taught the fourth grade the first year and then the fifth grade the next year. And I didn't like teaching all of those different subjects. And I had majored in drama and minored in English in college. And so I was living in the Bronx at the time. And New York has always had, well, I shouldn't say always because I don't know what it's like now, but it had specific requirements, high standards for teachers. For example, you couldn't get a teacher's permanent license if you were overweight at that time. Yes, I'm talking about 1958. You also should not have an accent, maybe a slight one, but if it was difficult for students to understand you, then you wouldn't have a permanent license either. So the standards were kind of high, maybe unfair, but high back.
And interesting standards that would not work today, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So okay. So you grew up in Ohio, and then how did you end up in New York?
I went to Howard University and I met my husband there, and he was from New York. He during the, let's see, that was about 1955, and I think it was the last year of the draft around there. Anyway, my husband had taken ROTC, and so he had to serve two years in the military. So we got married, and he was stationed in Alaska, so both of us were in Alaska, and came back. Then we came to New York, and because again, that was his home had been there before, and we decided that New York was a good place to live during that time. So that's how I got to New York.
Sure. And then did you stay in New York for the foreseeable future, or did you move around since was he still in the military or not in the military any longer?
He got out after his 2 years.
Okay. Okay. And then did y'all stay in, I'm sorry, I'm from the South. So, well now, so that's why I said y'all, but did you stay in New York?
Yes, we did. We decided that was the best place to live, because again, there was a lot of segregation, and New York offered many opportunities that the other states did not. And so we decided to stay in New York. Plus, he had relatives there, of course. So we
Right.
weren't ourselves. And
Sure.
we, our daughter was born in, we were in Alaska. She was, and so I, was a fairly new mother at the time when we first got back to New York. So I was home with her. And then, um, well, to have a better financial pool, we decided that I would go to work. And so um, had to go back to college and get my degree in teaching, or get some courses in teaching that I hadn't before. So I went to CCNY, City College of New York, and
Mm-hmm.
I got my master's, and then as I said, I taught 2 years in elementary school, and then I decided I didn't want to teach all those different subjects, so I my master's in English, and I went to teach in the high school ever after.
Oh, you did. Okay. So did you mentioned something about drama too? So you taught English. Were you also involved in drama at the high school?
Yes, I was. I taught, they had a drama program, excuse me, so I taught some drama courses, and I also directed plays after I had been at the school for a few years because they already had someone doing that. And so I kind of kept it a secret that I really would like to direct. So I think after maybe 2 years, then I started directing, and it was a wonderful experience. Most of the time I did musicals, that had been done on Broadway, Fiddler on the Roof and The King and
Wow.
One. And it was just a wonderful experience to see the young people blossom and their moment on the stage. And anybody who wanted to be in the play would be in the play because, of course, the chorus uh, frequently can have any number of people in it. So if someone didn't have a solo voice, they could still be in because they would be in the group scenes. And we had people of all ages participating. I did Oliver and The King and I, which needed a young child, a younger child than the high school age. So uh, we had the students when we did The King and I. There were about 90 people in the cast because the king had a lot of children and a lot of wives. So there were a lot of extras. And
How fun. I mean, really and truly. And so tell us, is there anybody that we would know that you taught that ended up being an actor or, on Broadway or in the movies or anything?
not that I know of.
Not that
Uh,
you know of. There might be, right? Because gosh, so how many years then did you teach at the high school level?
I taught, towards the end, I was in administration of a facilitator for remedial programs, so I wasn't in the classroom as much. But in education, I was a little over 50 years, maybe 52 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I just appreciate teachers, and of course, fondly remember some of my favorites for sure. It sounds like you probably made an impact on a lot of students. So, did you hear from them at all after you retired, or do you still sometimes to this day?
Yes, I at Christmas time I exchange cards, with some of the students, and the faculty members have kept in touch with each other too. So I have some special friends that I made when I was teaching in New York.
How nice. That's wonderful. So you mentioned New York was different from some of the other states as it relates to desegregation. Can you just maybe shed some light on that for us? I do remember briefly. So in like the late 70s, I lived in Columbus. I was probably 11 or 12, and I remember the talk about busing, and
Mm.
and that's kind of all I really remember. And of course, that was, like I said, that was in the 70s. So it sounds like New York was way ahead of everybody if they were desegregated in the, you said, in the 50s. So
Yes.
Jeff, could you just talk a little bit more about that for us? Yeah.
Of course, each school district was different, and there were places in New York where uh, people were uncomfortable. But in the Bronx and in Westchester County, where I taught, uh, people just got along. The students got along. As I said, the schools were desegregated, and so when the teacher taught, everybody who was in front of her or him got the same information. So there was no feeling that Black students were getting an inferior education because they were right in the classroom with everybody and got the information. Um, we had diversity programs, in service classes in the area of diversity. Um, I it's it's almost surreal, the closeness of the faculty. When I did the plays, the physical ed teacher did the choreography. The shop teacher built the sets, and of course, the music teacher taught the songs and directed the orchestra. So everybody was, and the PTA sold the tickets to the plays. So
Wow.
you know, everybody worked together, and we achieved. And uh, so from time to time there might be individual obstacles, but for the like one time. I had a student who plagiarized on his term paper, and his mother had to come in and talk with me. And in the course of the conversation, she just tossed out that she was a friend of the superintendent. And I smiled to myself. I don't know whether you are not. If he cheated, he cheated. And we're not going to change
Right.
it. So,
What are you asking me to do here?
yes, yes.
What do you make of you know all of I would think that now with AI and all that we have going on, how easy it would be for students to have these new programs actually write a paper for them, just
I
the
know.
is what do you make of all of that?
Uh, I'm glad I'm not teaching now. I not a technological person, and using the computers and everything, and AI makes it even worse because I don't know, the challenge to develop mentally isn't there. Isn't the same at least. And I'm glad I taught when I did.
I bet for sure. From the time you started teaching high school to the time that you stopped teaching high school, or retired, were there big differences from the beginning to the end in terms of um, just students' level of interest, their brain power, their motivation? Did you notice a big change in that 50 or so years?
Definitely, I did. The Well, even before computers were in the schools, there were changes. And I taught in elementary school in the Bronx, as I said, and I think it was pretty widespread in New York schools that there was an auditorium day, and the students would wear like a white blouse, a white shirt, and navy blue skirt, and they would have an assembly, and put on programs and so on. And then for some reason they stopped, and dress codes were no longer in existence, and so teachers and students wore what they wanted to. And I personally felt that started a decline in the quality of participation and in achievement. With jeans and sneakers on, you have to then ask people to take their feet off the desk. It and I couldn't teach now because, as I said, I'm not technologically inclined with AI and the computer. I don't know the computer that well, and they do so much work with the machinery, and I'm just I don't know. I wonder how much the human brain is being used and how much machines are in control.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you think that the start or the decline, I don't know if that's the right word, but the start of it was with the change in the uniform requirements. It's almost like, are you suggesting that school itself was taken less seriously because of relaxing the dress code? And it started with relaxing the dress code.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually liked uniforms. I went to a Catholic school for a period of time, and it was nice not to have to worry about what to wear every single day. It was just laid out for me. But that's interesting. I imagine there are a lot of parents that would probably appreciate a dress code because it would be easier all around, right?
Yes. And then you couldn't tell the teachers from the students, from high school students, because the teachers had on jeans and, shirts out. And I was old fashioned. I just thought, teachers should dress like adults and on a job, and not going to the beach or somewhere. So.
Mrs. Barbour, it's such an honor to have you on. It really is. I love hearing your story and history. And, I would love to know, sitting where you are now, what would, if you could go back and talk to your 30-year-old self, what would you say to her today?
I would say that that life is good. I have as my mantra, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. And I think if on a personal basis we get to know each other, that things can get better in the world, and with things that are going on today, if you were to ask me, well, you asked me back in the 30s. Well, now I'm 90, and think I never thought about what it would be like to live 100 years, and I've had a good life. I've met some wonderful people. I've been blessed, and I look forward to continuing and see if I can't make it to that century mark.
Well, it sure seems like that's a great possibility because, oh my gosh, I would never have guessed you were 90. Not in a million years. So what brought you to Preston Point? Just out of curiosity.
Passed. Yes, he passed in 2022, and children live in the Raleigh area, Chapel Hill, And it was almost a 2-hour drive from here to Kinston because traffic, there are so many highways and traffic is so swift. So we decided that the best thing was for me to come closer to them. So they checked around. We got information about Preston Point and visited, and it seemed like a place that I would be happy, and I am. I
Oh, I love to hear that. And how nice that you get to be close to both of your children. That's wonderful.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and my
Do you have
grandchildren
grand?
are here.
Okay.
When he's in North Carolina now.
Your grandchildren are all in their 20s?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
they are.
Yeah.
And I have
Oh,
one great grandson.
oh, how lovely. That's great. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, what have you I would imagine you've met a ton of people at Preston Point. Is it
Yes.
what are some of the things that you enjoy doing there?
The exercise classes, I haven't been able to go every week, but it's amazing how long it takes to put things in order. Getting your papers together and deciding what pictures to keep and so on. And I'm still have things in papers in boxes that I have to make decisions about. But at Preston Point, one's time is one's own. I can do whatever I want to do when I can eat when I want to eat. If I usually go with people that I met, early on, and we go. I don't always go to breakfast because I don't like to get up early, so we meet at dinner.
We have that one.
So and I really never like to cook, and so I don't have to cook, and that's one of the highlights of staying there here. The people are friendly. In our conversations, we find we have things in common, and people are from many different places. There are some New Yorkers here, people from Ohio. It's the surroundings are so lovely, going outside with the beautiful landscaping, the celebrating special occasions, St. Patrick's Day and Black History Month. It's I was going to say it's a well-designed program. See, I go back to teaching. It's everything, to make me comfortable is here, except for, of course, the people that are gone. But
Yeah.
I'm glad my children found this place because
Oh, good. Yeah, it sounds lovely. Yeah,
yeah,
it really. Well, and you sound like you're happy there. So that's
yes.
great. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with us? Anything else that, gosh, that we can pass on and share with another generation? Any last bits of wisdom from Mrs. Gerri Barbour?
Uh, no, just that it's good for us to be open-minded and realize that we have a lot to share. And yes, we are our brother's keeper. And I don't want to get political, but a lot of things are going on today that show that people aren't close together, that they don't have much love for each other, and that's unfortunate. But just each of us, we do what we can, in our circles, and I think we can make a difference over time. And if I may add, going back to segregation, in New York State, I don't know who came up with the idea, but we had a series of parties, and people came and they talked and found out what they had in common. And if you really enjoyed someone's company, then you arrange to go have dinner with them somewhere, go to their home, come to your home, and there were two couples that my first husband and I became close to, and we used to visit each other, and the friendship lasted, through the death of the people, and it just showed what can be done. We can enjoy each other and go to the theater and places, the beach and places together, and but
Yeah.
a lot is based on fear and lack of contact, and being misguided
That's
by.
right.
uh, I just wanted to add something about a special student that I like
Oh,
to
yes.
we were going to do Fiddler on the Roof, and one young man had a beautiful voice, and he was the special ed student. And his mother said she didn't think he could learn the lines. And Tevye is on the stage almost all the time. And so she said she didn't think he could learn the lines, and he said he could. And when he said he could, I said to myself, he can. And so I put him in the role. He learned every line.
Oh,
Sang his little heart out. And you ask if any of my students, became quote unquote name people. He decided that he was going to try to make a living as a singer, as a musician. And I don't know, how far he was able to carry it, but it just did my heart good to see him out there on that stage. He
oh,
was
yes.
important, and I I think that's a problem with the world today, is that we don't encourage each other enough. We don't make a person feel good about himself. We need to remind each other that things can be all right. Don't give up. Don't uh, get angry, but work with other people, and make this world a better place. 'Cause
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think that's something I really appreciate and notice in people when they're encouragers. That's such a gift when people are really wonderful encouragers. So I love that. So it sounds like that
people,
is.
yes, people
Pardon?
encouraged me. People
Yes.
encouraged me. Was my I remember my sixth grade teacher. We had little um, not address books, keepsake books. That you uh, had, and my sixth grade teacher wrote, "You have great possibilities, so don't waste them." And to me, that meant, she wanted me to be all I could be, and so I'm going to try my best everywhere.
She believed in you. Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Mhm. And it sounds like
That,
you believed in a lot of your students. So
yeah,
I'm sure you
yeah.
made an impact. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you again. And
Thank
thank you.
you.
Pardon? Pardon?
Thank you for giving me this
Oh,
opportunity
you're
to
so
share.
welcome. Yeah,
Great.
it's been a pleasure hearing from you and meeting you. And thank you to all of our listeners today who've joined us at the Retirement Point podcast.
Oh, all
All
right.
right. You have a good rest of your day, Mrs. Barbour.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for joining us today at the Retirement Point podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can hear more about what it's like before and after the point of retirement.